What's going on, everybody, in the Kaloscope world? And today we have Kirk here, and we're going to be going over Kaloscope, what they've got going on in the future, and we have a lot of big things coming. So, Kirk, go ahead, tell us about Kaloscope and your vision for this.
Sure. Thanks for having me on your channel, man. So a little bit about me. My name is Kirk. I am the CEO and founder of Kaloscope. It's a social media metaverse where users can uh, project, collect, and interact with their NFTs in augmented reality, virtual reality, and extended reality. And the way we do this is by introducing uh, NFT limited edition virtual metaverse spaces where people can then store their NFTs within an NFT. And in this experience, think of it as almost like a Ready Player One, but then you can then invite your friends into this virtual space. You can see them with their own avatars, and then you can show them your collection. So it's really the main idea of this. It's about, being making Web3 social, and also taking us to the next phase of social media, which is decentralized. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's a good point when you talk about social media and the Web3, because I kind of feel like all the social media platforms that are out there right now have really gone stagnant. And what you just explained to me, I could see that being the next big boom and pop. And that's one thing that really drove me to Caloscope and looking more into you guys and wanting to set up this interview is because that is definitely going to be the future as we move forward, because COVID has kind of really launched, people's mindsets from the real world to diving into digital and understanding that a little bit more. So when you start talking about Caloscope becoming a social media, is it going to be kind of laid out from a Facebook standpoint? We're going to have a chat room and all that, and then you can just jump into people's portals, which we'll get into here in a minute. If you look in the top right hand corner of his screen, that's a portal. How does the portals work in this?
Okay, so the way the app works is as you log into the app, you connect your non-custodial wallet. So something like a MetaMask, a Trust wallet, or maybe like a Coinbase wallet or something. And then once you connect the wallet onto this platform, it acts as your wallet interface so that it can read your NFT collection. Think of it similar to OpenSea. When you log in through that, you can see your whole OpenSea collection. And the difference is we then take it to the next level, wherein you can then showcase your NFTs in augmented reality or virtual reality or extended reality format. Now, within Caloscope, we have several features that help us interact with your NFTs in a different way. So the first way that we introduce metaverse is to open a portal. So everybody has this idea or the journey where, you can then go through a portal and unlock a virtual world. And that's the very first step of trying to get into the metaverse. And so these portals, just like you can see from the gates of Aradena that you can see from there. It's literally you can walk into that portal and then it will then teleport you to your metaverse space. But it's customizable for dependent on the user. So it doesn't matter what type of portal it is. It could be it could be a whirlpool. It could be a black hole. It could be it could be a spaceship tunnel. The like the first iteration of your first entrance to the metaverse is we feel that it's a very important experience. And on top of that as well, we're adding utility to this, wherein at some point you will be able to participate in Kalos quests, and these portals will have quests attached to it that if you then participate in those quests, you can then unlock other NFTs or other rewards that come along with that. So then there's a little bit of light gamification attached to the portals. And the space itself is again dependent on the user, but we will be starting with NFT projects, well-established brands, and independent artists with a very good community. And you can then enter that space and you can decorate that space however you like. So very similar to the concept of on cyber or VV, but the difference is the space itself is an NFT. And then you can, as I mentioned earlier before, you can then store NFTs within an NFT. And that's really where as it gets deeper, you realize that this is your own metaverse space. This is exclusive to you. And that exclusivity will then, we believe that people will create new experiences within that metaverses, maybe even rent it out for an experience, or maybe open it up to uh, other utilities that we will be unlocking in the future. But this is just the first step, the portals, and then the metaverse space.
All right, that is a whole lot to unbox with what you just said there. So let me kind of recap that, and this is where I go in my head, and it just
Mm,
things get crazy. But so I kind of think of what you just explained, like when you first go to Disney World, you've got that entrance, which is your portal, and then you go in there, and then you've got all these different directions that you can go, and one of them right now that we know of is Aradena, correct?
yeah.
So you jump in there, you're going to go do Aradena, and you said that there's going to be like quests and storylines that you can go do. Does that mean like go fight somebody, go battle, go find a secret rare spot, a Easter egg hunt kind of scenario? What does that look like?
We're looking at, again, light gamification. So maybe let's say if you collect a certain number of NFTs, you can unlock a badge. Or maybe if you play the Aradena game and then you play it for a certain number of hours, then you can unlock certain benefits within our platform. It's really almost like, the best way to describe it is, if you play Xbox or maybe even PlayStation, you can get those rewards at the end of upon completing a certain quest or storyline within the game that you're playing in. We are just acting as like your home screen in a way, and then at least here, you have a platform to showcase the rewards that you've won, and the and you can then store it within that space, and maybe you unlock a trophy. Maybe then that trophy can then be placed inside your Aradena throne room. Or maybe you can then unlock a 3D version of the Aradena warriors that you then purchased, which is accessible to Aradena Metaverse. But then you can then almost like interruptly maybe unlock a new experience on Kaloscope. Maybe you can then, instead of unlocking your 3D model, maybe you can be wearing the clothes of that character that you unlock. So there's a lot of different ways we're looking into this. But once the app is out, we'll be exploring a little bit more. But it's all about utility. We're not just creating here a collectible that you can, which we are creating like high quality collectibles or experiences, but it's also adding that metaverse utility to that experience, as well as rewarding people for holding it and staking it within our ecosystem as well. So it helps Aradina. It also uh, uh, gets people involved with us without us creating new content.
Yeah, that's been the biggest thing for me getting into the NFT space is when you start telling people about NFTs and how it's definitely going to be the future. One of the best examples I always give is you think back to art and you go back to the Mona Lisa, and if you had that NFT of it, it could get passed down for generations and generations, and the value of that and holding it, and then the way that it would go with Aradena, if you've got that first warrior that is just awesome, and here it is 20, 30 years later, it's still awesome, it's the first, it's going to be playing a big role for people long term, kind of like what we was talking about in the AMA. If you could go back and have those old collectibles and how they evolve through the future and you can upgrade them, I could kind of see that in Aradena. And like in the game, will you be able to like upgrade your spears or like level your characters up?
Well, for that type of gamification, that would be more of an Aradina exclusive type of gamification. But for us, it's really trying to reward people who are buying or participating in Aradina in general. So it's not just Aradina, but for any NFT project or any uh, metaverse or projects that are involved with working with us, because we're trying to add more utility for an NFT project, even if it barely has anything. Because majority of the time, a lot of projects, they don't really have the manpower, the skill power, connections in order to build a metaverse. What we're trying to do is create a mini metaverse for the collectors that have purchased the NFTs from that community. And we believe that the community will then, that is being brought onto our platform, we can then cross pollinate that with other projects as well. So let's say if somebody was into Illuvium, then maybe they come to the Kaloscope platform and go inside the Illuvium space. People can then connect. People will then have a friend maybe that owns the Aradena space. They come into the Aradena space and, wow, this is a really cool metaverse space. Like, where did you get it? What's the game like? Or what's the activities like? And then you have this. We believe this interaction between, someone else from another community and another person from another community, cross pollinating and talking about their projects. And this is how social interactions or social networks are built, because you have interest, you follow people with same or similar interests, and you also uncover new projects through these connections as well. So it's not about us creating the gamification, it's just creating the platform uh, where people can come together and talk about their collection, or talk about their experiences within that collection.
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to be key moving forward because if you got all these awesome projects but they don't intertwine like you were saying, I can see with the way the world's evolving that stuff failing long term or getting blockbustered, as some people call it, where they don't innovate and try to come up with new ideas. So I'm definitely extremely excited for that kind of aspect of it, especially like you said, the cross pollinating, where if you can take weapons or certain characters and go in both worlds, that's just going to be absolutely massive and huge and blow up, just absolutely blow up. So what are the
Yeah, I mean,
streets?
I'm a
Yeah.
gamer. Just
Yeah.
yeah, sorry. I was gonna add on, like, I mean, I'm a gamer myself, and I used to play a lot of Halo, Call of Duty, and Resident Evil, and then Pokemon especially. But then you don't have that one place where I'm just playing these games. They're from separate consoles, separate worlds. But then it would have been nice if I had my own virtual room, to then I can then store those assets within that space, because I travel the world, and it's hard for me to carry all these cool collections that I've got. And to some extent as well, there's the issue of deterioration and maintenance, and on top of that, the liquidation as well. So if you have to, if you want to sell your stuff, you sell it on eBay, but then you have to send that item. Maybe the item gets lost on the post, or maybe gets
Damaged.
damaged along the way. We, we're so we really, I mean, when I was younger, I used to collect a lot of airplanes. So my parents flew all over the world. They used different airlines, and they bought like one airplane per airline. And I used to have like a massive collection. And after a couple of years of living in the UK and coming back here in the Philippines, I asked my mom, Mom, where all the airplanes?" Oh, so she just said, "Oh well, they were transferring houses. They are got broken or destroyed." Or so it made me feel quite bad that, like, I've been having those collections for a couple of years, but now they're all gone, simply just because of the physical aspect of it. With this NFTs, you can then have a new aspect of these collectibles. Like, wouldn't it be nice to have, I don't know, an Emirates Airlines uh, airplane collectible, but then it also comes with a perk where I can upgrade my economy seat into business. So, the sky's the limit when it comes to these type of things, but then you'd always need to have a home to keep it in, an exclusive virtual space that's exclusive to you, and then you want to then show it off. People like to show off what they're collecting, because maybe you can then, I see collectibles from your wall over there that looks look which is really cool. But if I see one of them, I said, man, I'll pay you, I'll
Right.
buy your asset, or maybe I'll trade it for you. But then, or like, oh, who's this character? I've never seen this before. What game is it? Or what anime or what show. So now I'm starting to get into that world just because I can see your space, and that's how we kind of see this in Kaloscope. People will have their own collections within their spaces, and then people will be inviting people within those spaces to learn more about what you're collecting. And sky's the limit when it comes to for what those types of aspects really.
Yeah, so kind of like what you were talking about, the collectibles versus, the NFTs. I've been a collector for a long time. I actually got into Funko Pops for a while and was flipping those, and let me tell you, selling those online and dealing with shipping and customers and people just scamming you, sending the wrong one back because the barcode does not match up with the one I sent. So dealing with all those pains and issues is one reason why I actually got into NFTs, and I got into VV. It was kind of the gateway for me to getting into it, and it has been so much better and amazing. And I've got a huge collection of NFTs, but it is so nice to be able to, like you said, your friends see it, or you could just post it up and then boom, it's on the blockchain. There's no scandalous stuff. Everything's done with that. So this is like I haven't really bought a physical anything except for these dadgum new cards that come out from Hero. But other than that, like NFTs are just way better. And with the way the digital world's going and everybody's going VR, AR, and all that, I see people realizing they don't need those big houses and they don't need to go and get this job that they hate going to for hours on end for a lot of pay, that they can downgrade that to live a better, healthier life, because you're going to be plugged into the you know VR world, AR world. And as crazy as some people might think it sounds, but it definitely is. And there's just a lot of things that people don't think about, how the world's changing and evolving. You look at like autonomous cars and all that, and I was listening to Randy Chavez the other day, and they were talking about Tesla and cars and how you're not even going to have insurance, and as long as you own a Tesla and you've got their insurance plan or whatever, and you get a wreck, they'll pay for it, they'll take care of it. And that just never crossed my mind. But that goes back to the NFTs and how it's evolving and growing, because it's definitely going to be the future. So kind of talking about where people come in your space and see your things, will there ever be like a thing where you have like a ranking system? People's got their metaverse laid out. They've got their house, they got their collectibles set up. There's all kinds of cool stuff in there. Can people go and rate that, and there be like a top 10 leaderboard of people's metaverses that you can go to? And if that ever does happen, would there ever be something where somebody creates that Disneyland or Disney World kind of metaverse that's just huge and massive and immersive, that you could charge admission to get in?
Well, going back to this gamification that I mentioned before, yes, there will be some type of leaderboards, but we're looking at it a little bit differently. So it's not just about that. We have several layers that we're looking into. So one of the first gamification that we're going to be introducing on Kaloscope, in which we're doing for the Aradena drop, on the 30th, is the morphing capabilities, where you could combine two common portals and then burn them after paying a small fee, and then you can then unlock a much rarer variant. So similar to, as you can see, over here on my left, you have the Aradena portal. That's the Kalos variant, which only has 15 units out of like 300 morphable assets. So that's the first type of gamification that we're light gamification that we're looking into. The next one is crafting. So let's say you utilize the Kalos gates, as you can see from there, and then maybe when you enter the metaverse space, we can also have certain assets that will then award you with some resources. So one of the assets that we were testing is this concept of NF trees, for example, or non-fungible virtual trees, where we connect real world GPS tracked trees that is connected to a real tree in Africa. So this asset can then be placed inside your metaverse space. And then maybe you can then receive, I don't know, X amount of pieces of wood every single day. And then let's say after a certain amount has been collected, you can then use that to craft items and then build maybe a table or a chair or maybe a golden frame that you can then attach to your 2D image. So, that's the second type of light gamification that we're looking into. And, there's other types as well, but these will be the first two. But then after, let's say if you morph a couple of times or you craft different items, maybe you could be a master crafter, or maybe you're a morphing master or something like that. So you can earn different titles. Maybe we're even looking at like maybe badge systems maybe. So you can earn a certain badge which then you can flex on as an NFT on your wall, or maybe a trophy after we do certain competitions that we can then award you, and you can then place it within your space. So there's a lot of different aspects, on how we can do that. So maybe it starts with getting a title or rank, and then once you have your title or rank, you can then compete with other quests that you can unlock within our metaverse. So all about us is about social interaction, getting people rewarded for interacting with a certain NFT project, and then uh, obviously like it's almost like it's not really played to earn. It's almost like participate and then you earn or something like that. But yeah, that's really the basics of what we have. And we're always thinking about utility, or what I like to call it as perk abilities, perks and abilities.
Yeah, I definitely like that. And when you was talking about it in the AMA we had the other day, that was one thing that my brain just started firing like crazy on, and it reminds me a lot of. I played Final Fantasy 11 online, and I'm sure this is for the World of Warcraft players. But that was one of my questions I wanted to ask you was, so you got your NF trees, you're getting the wood and stuff off there. Will it be all right? You harvest this wood. Will it be an NFT? Can you sell that wood, or is it just going to be that you can use it to buy furniture or make furniture to put in there? And then is the furniture going to be an NFT as well?
The furniture is looking for that to be the NFT. And that's how you earn. You can then sell that as an asset. The resources will probably just be like a point-based system.
Okay.
So as you collect it, so it's almost like when you place NFTs within your space, essentially, or to some extent, it's almost like you're staking it, because when you connect your wallet onto our platform, you won't be able to place an NFT within that space unless you own it in the first place. So, so then it basically incentivizes people to maybe store certain NFTs within that space. For all you know, you can have a metaverse space and then you can have 20 trees inside that space, and that room is just filled with trees. So now you have your mini virtual forest, right? And
Mm-hmm.
maybe you have another NFT space that could be developed for something else, just for collections, not for the purpose of resource gathering. So, we're looking at all this as utilities, especially for a token, because, when you're crafting, you need to use our token. If you're trying to buy an NFT, you're looking to buy our token. So it's like, it's also incentivizes this, um, out the gate, we have like straight utility for our tokens. But yeah, no, it's about being able to unlock, customize your space through these uh, crafting mechanisms, and then maybe upgrade as well. I mean, there's a lot you can think of like millions and millions of ways of on how to make this even more fun. But at the end of the day, where the way we see it, it's about the user having the complete control of their assets, the complete control of how they want to sort of design their space. But then also giving them the capabilities to then introduce their collection to their friends, to their followers. Because if you, like I said, I mean, just looking at your collection from behind you, for example, it'll tell me a lot about you as a person, because when you're collecting something, you can actually tell almost like what type of personality they've got in a way. They're it's either they collect a lot of, I don't know, sci-fi, but then they're not very organized. But then you have somebody who's like, I don't know, into something else, but then they're, you can tell a lot about the person just from their what they're collecting, and it's totally different from what they like, but it's also an inkling of what they're buying. It's a buying mechanism, so it's a very important statistic in business, really. But yeah.
Yeah, a lot of my collection is kind of that end of the world, it's Borderlands. I love that aspect, and Walking Dead and zombies and all that. Can we expect something
Mm.
like that in Kaloscope Portal soon?
Well, I mean, we are in talks with another partnership for a horror-based NFT
Oh, nice.
project. So, it's like you never say never when it comes to things, because
Sure.
I love horror myself. I mean, wouldn't it be cool if you can walk around that space? And then, actually, the best way to do this stuff, May, is I could probably show you our demo of the app. So, if you let me share screen,
Okay.
yeah, you just have to go to settings, and then you have to click on share screen, security and settings.
So yeah, that's one thing I'm definitely looking forward to is the horror, portals, and it's kind of like what we was talking the other day is one of the biggest things for metaverses for me is whenever you I want to see a marketplace that sells like haunted house stuff, like ghosts, slime, spider webs, traps that pop up. You got your AR, VR headsets on, you're walking through and all that. And then, kind of like a Kaloscope where you have a portal of that where a lot of people don't get to go out and, experience haunted houses and things of that nature or just physically can't. So that's another reason why NFTs and the, digital spaces are going to be moving forward to help share those experiences with people.
Oh yeah. I mean, let me just, I'm just sharing my screen now. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, hold on just a second though. I'm going to have to. All right. Yep. Go ahead.
So if you can see my screen, this is just the demo version of the Kaloscope app. This is what we presented back in Dubai. Um, uh, and we presented this in Dubai Expo, and we won one of the best projects around that time. So as you can see from the Kaloscope app, you have like two different functionalities on Kaloscope here, the button, which is scanner and spaces. So scanner is just an augmented reality experience, but then the spaces are the important one. When you click on a space, you have three different functionalities that we're looking into, like I said, which is AR, VR, and XR. You can tap on, let's say, as you can see from this video, you can tap on AR. You can scan, let's say, a surface or the floor, and then let's say a portal will then open. Now, we didn't have time to develop the portal at that time, but just imagine, let's say, the Aradena space as an example. The portal will then show up in front of you, and you can walk through the gates of Aradena, and then you enter the metaverse. So as you can see here, it's this hands-free experience that I'm in a virtual room. You can walk around this virtual space from end to end. It'll be at length to your virtual world.
So is that going to be
Now,
like your whenever you fire up Kaloscope, will that be like your home base right there that we're looking at?
this is just a default
Okay.
testing demo, but you get the idea
Sure.
for this functionality that you can walk around this virtual space that's exclusive to you, end to end. And then obviously you'll have different designs if you have a certain type of NFT. We also have the VR mode, similar to VVs, where you can walk around this virtual space. And then you have the XR mode, which is just a little bit different, but you can have a hands-free experience, but then you still have a joystick controller that allows you to walk around. So as you can see there, like imagine if you're in a haunted house, you could look up and down, but then you don't have to
Right.
walk forward. You can just use that controller.
Yeah, that is definitely
So
awesome, and that's pretty. I'm telling you, man, I'm so excited for the future of just all this technology and everything. So what is these
Well,
trees right
definitely.
here?
These are just the examples of our NFTs, and these are the examples of just NFTs that I have in my wallet. So as you can see here, this is an example of a mural that our CTO purchased for about $56,000 in Dubai. So it's a real life mural. So it's almost like a wall art paint, and then you can see it in one of the shopping malls over there. And it now this NFT is connected to a real world asset, and as you can see, I can resize it and move it around, and then oh, it's still a bit on the side, so then I can centralize it in a way, and then I can walk around. I can then place, let's say, an NF tree right next to it. So
So
3D models
whenever
as
you
well.
go to harvest the wood on this, will you have to like click it, or will it just automatically dispense it? And what kind of time frame will we be looking at for it giving you your yield?
I mean, well, again, it's still early stage. We're very, very early in this, but at some point, I mean, I would just imagine maybe per day you earn a certain piece of wood. So you tap on a tree, and then maybe there's a section there that says harvest or something like that, and you tap on the harvest button or something like this. So it's all about like put it this way, it's a way to get people back to the app so that they can check on their tree, so that
Sure.
they can tap on the asset to collect their yield, right? So it's almost like you said, you're farming, right? It's almost
Right.
like checking out the chickens if they lay their eggs or something, you know.
So like with Aradena, so like for me, I'm sitting here thinking like, all right, this is a warrior battling game. Could we see something where you've got your NF tree or some kind of mining, and you can farm all this stuff, and then you can start building walls and etc. in games?
Yeah, so for that type of stuff, we have a concept called the Kalos Caves. So it's a while back we were looking at some more gamifications, and you can walk around this virtual cave, and then maybe you can tap on the walls, and then you can unlock certain resources from there. Maybe if you had a sword, you can then tap on the wall, and you can just slash the walls or something. Or maybe you can have a hammer or an axe. And it's just the idea of just it's just why the resources are important for the crafting, because we will be looking at other ways for you to get those resources, not just by staking and leaving in the room. You can then go into a virtual experience where you can just like, again, it's not extremely super complex, but it's about exploring. It's about going through virtual worlds and exploring the metaverse experiences. So, and this is just like one part of it in the future that we're looking at. So, it could be a forest. You can walk around a forest. You can, I don't know, tap on one of the trees. Maybe it gives you one special type of wood. And then so you have, I don't know, you have maybe 100 green woods, and then you have a hint of redwood. Then you can craft all those things together, similar to Roblox or Minecraft. And then you can then produce, a new type of NFT, or a box, or a table or chair, or like you said, an enchanted sword. It like sky's the limit of what we can do, and then maybe produce blueprints in order to find out what you can craft. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot we can explore
I could definitely
as we
see
look into
where like
this.
if you go and you're harvesting trees and then you get a super rare seed that you could plant in your showroom, and it could be like a long tier staking where once that tree is fully developed, then you can start harvesting this rare wood from it.
Hmm. I mean, we looked at that a while back, and so we even had this idea: what if you can have the tree fruit, and it starts bearing fruit, and then
Right.
and then eventually you can then use those fruits to then feed.
You got to feed the
We have this
peasants.
concept. Well, we had this concept of the meta pets as well, so the
Mm,
virtual pets, and but all this really cool things is going to be introduced, later down the line on the app's sake. But the first version of the app, especially if you have a diamond pass, you'll be given access to the alpha version of the app, and then you'll be able to then store or interact with your NFTs. That's the first iteration of what we're introducing for the alpha. And then eventually, maybe in the beta version, when the gold passes are, if people have the gold passes, you enter the beta phase, and then you can then have some new experiences as well. So it's all about introducing new utilities within the application, but this will be sometime Q3, Q4 this year, or maybe sometime next year as well. So, it's a progressive one. We start with like this partnership with Aradena as a proof of concept that we can produce NFTs based on the IP of our partners, but then combine our own mini gamification metaverse utilities with it. So now you can see like a proper joint partnership. So I mean, you can see the Kalos logos on the Aradena, for example, the Aradena Warrior portal. So that's like a combination of two different companies and brands, joined together to then introduce a new concept. So we're here to then give new experiences for the collectors within those communities, and something like this is it's all about the community with it.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Is on the diamond and gold passes. What else can you tell us about it? And the one thing that really intrigued me was you were talking about, or you posted up on Twitter and Discord about Kaloscope's Diamond Pass getting you on an island, and I was like, is he talking a digital island or a physical island? And that's a physical island, right?
Yeah, no, it's a real life island. So I was there last week. I mean, it's an island that was actually my family, but we've had it for about 20 years or so. We just didn't know what to do with it. And during the pandemic, it was such a shame because, you have some amazing, you have such a beautiful island, but we couldn't go to it. And right now, we believe that tourism is going to really shoot up after the COVID pandemic, and we wanted to give new utilities to our pass holders. So one of the easiest ways is, if you have a pass, you can then have access to this private island. If you want to just go there for a day or something with your family to just have lunch, or maybe even, I don't know, get married or whatever, people have their own use cases for it. But we are also doing another project on top of that, but this will be completely separate for Caloscope. And we are developing a resort in that island as well. So this will be, at first you can just come to the beach, have a look at it. But then, if you're in the Philippines, if you there were then to fly down there, it's a beautiful place. So think of it as imagine like Thailand, but without the tourists. So it's very exclusive. And the other utilities as well we've introduced was the Metaverse Bar in Dubai. So we just opened that up yesterday. Our partners from Colossal Bit just introduced this really cool concept wherein you can put on a virtual reality headset, like a VR headset, and you can walk around the bar with a VR headset. And we mapped out everything according to the tables, the chairs, and if you look, it's a rooftop bar, so you can then have a beautiful view of the Burj Khalifa, the world's tallest building. And then as you put on the headset, you can see like a giant pink whale floating in the air, or like cars flying in the air. So it's a really cool concept, and then combining the augmented reality as well. So like for the pass holders, again, it's all about the utilities. So half of it is like, let's say, real life utility, and the other half is metaverse utilities, like early access to drops, airdrops, maybe invited to exclusive events. So very long term, it's all about the use case of this.
So right now, the Diamond Pass, if I own one, right now I'm just going to an empty island, correct?
Maybe, yeah, it's pretty much as
Sure.
virgin and as clean as it could be.
Okay, well
Yeah.
that's sweet. Like I just kind of wonder how does that, like, would I just message you and be like, hey, I'm going to this island? Is there something I need to do? I'm from United States, so like, do I have to get a permit or pass, or how does that work?
Oh no, I mean, essentially, you could just message me. But what we're planning to do is we are introducing NFT staking after our drop with Aradena. So we're just Hello K and our engineers at the moment, they're just working that out. And once you have this NFT staking mechanism, you can then earn points for staking your NFTs, like the passes or the I don't know, the Aradena NFTs. And then with those points, you can then either exchange it for you know, access to the island, or maybe toward whitelisting token allocations, for example, for a token launch. So there's a lot of different ways that we'll be looking to introduce this. Even let's say access to the bar. Maybe you get a drink at the bar if you stake enough points, with our thing, and then you can
Oh
then
yeah.
exchange it for a point system. So we want to introduce as much utilities with our NFTs long term, and it won't just be limited to like Philippines and Dubai. Like we're looking at the US. We're looking at I mean, I just get invited to some very cool event in France. So like that, even the UK, because I'm from the UK, and like with all these utilities, many people from around the world, um, whether they're living inside that country or maybe in the future flying to that country, they have something to experience. And people are going to say, hey, I have a gold pass or I have a diamond pass. I can then use this to get a certain experience while I'm there for holiday. Or maybe, oh, there's an NFT drop that is happening and it's partnered with Kaloscope. Maybe you get early access to another NFT project through our pass system, or again the metaverse experiences, wherein maybe you unlock certain things within the Kaloscope, metaverse, and just for owning that NFT, you get other benefits. So it's like the more you participate, the more you hold on to, especially the first versions of our NFTs. It'll always be the most valuable because yeah, it's gonna be it won't just be again like a nice 3D model collectible. Although we can augment that, we have an augmented reality system, 3D modeling system that you can view those NFTs after the drop. But it's all about the utility long term, because that's what's going to push the floor price. That's what's going to maintain the floor price, and that's what gets people to hold, because they still, oh, there's going to be a new utility coming soon, and it's going to be very clear.
Yeah, I can definitely say for sure, without a doubt, the point system that you just talked about is going to be absolutely massive because people go freaking nuts to be on leaderboards and just points. I know people that go to McDonald's and they use the app to get all these points and they're freaking addicted to get more points even though they're going and getting food. But it's
Okay.
like with the HRO hero, like I listen to those guys on the Twitter space all the time, and it is insane the amount of money and level that people go to get on leaderboards and just get that flex like you were talking about. And I could see like with
Mm.
diamond passes, like on Aradena or future projects that come on board that has to do with warriors getting a shield, and then if you own a diamond or gold pass that it's got it on the front of the shield, and that's like that flex, I'm coming through.
Mm. Well, again, like the more utility you introduce
Right.
and the more NFT projects that we drop, then you can have many different ways to get those points through staking. And it's a good thing. Staking is obviously one of the best ways to help give a very healthy floor price to NFT projects, because there's less and less people selling, but like people are get rewarded with a point system which they can then use to exchange for either virtual or real world experiences. Some people just love being at home, right? Some
Mm-hmm.
people just like playing games and they don't want to leave their house. Then maybe the metaverse experiences is right for them. But then some people are adventurous. They're, I don't know, business people. They're busy. They're not really always at home, but then they stay at a certain country or a certain area. But then you can then use that as an exchange for
Mm-hmm.
a certain experience in real life. So that's was really the main aspect of these for our NFTs and passes. You'll always get a bit more. You get more rewarded as you hold them, and then obviously when people hold them, it looks like there's less in circulation, which means that it shoots up in price. organically.
Yeah, I as this Kaloscope evolves, do you see them doing NFT or music NFTs? And the reason why I say that is being a YouTube content creator, with the whole band hammer getting,
Mhm.
copyrighted and all that, I would love to see something out there where I can get that copyright free music. And if I could own the NFT of it to use it, could you see Kaloscope doing
Mhm.
something like that?
Well, one of the things I actually want, I'm a musician myself,
Nice.
so I like writing music, um, or singing songs. But what the early iterations for Kaloscope is what we wanted to have like a jukebox. Like imagine like an NFT jukebox, and within this NFT jukebox, you can then turn a piece of music and then slot in maybe one of these cool discs, to play some music within your space. Yeah, I mean, I was joking around with Dozer, for example, like nothing stops Disney from coming up with, I don't know, a fractionalized copy of the Star Wars theme song, for example, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
they sell it as NFTs, and then people can then buy that fractionalized NFT music, but then within Kaloscope, you can then have that platform to play it. So as you walk into your virtual space, you can be playing that Star Wars music. So it's all about like that cool experiences, because the more people come into the online, you know, you always remember like, um, there's a nostalgic feeling when you come into a room, right? Like a good example, let's say, is you go to like, what if you had like a virtual room and it was like the friend's apartment, right? From Friends. You go in there and then maybe like the theme song starts playing. Then you feel like, oh my gosh, this is quite cool. Or one of the iterations I had was from my baby sister. She's 18 now, but when she was way younger, she loved SpongeBob. So we played around with SpongeBob's room, and when she entered that metaverse room of SpongeBob, and then let's say the SpongeBob theme song starts playing. So we're looking at other aspects of this, because the thing with NFT music is it's really good for the artist, but the issue I have with it sometimes is like just understanding the utility for it for the purchaser or the buyer. The only thing that people do not right now is that you award the buyer with some money, but then people don't really listen to music just because they get paid for it, right? People use it for the experience and the mood, because it creates the mood uh, for what you're doing. And like, so we're looking to maybe like the same way you're trying to attach or customize your portals entering your space. What if you can also customize the music that's being played in your space too? So just because I own this NFT, I can then maybe play some music, and these are the playlists that I can play within my music. Because I was just listening to Spotify, and I realized thousands and thousands of songs. And then it would have been much nicer if it was like it would be my top 10 songs that I didn't just play on loop.
Mm-hmm.
And then I come to this space, these are the top 10 songs that I have on this space. But then if I go to another space, it has other music attached to it. But we are looking into that. It is a social metaverse, and that's the reason why we've created this platform. And but this will be again, it'll be later down the line. It's all about trying to build the platform for the community that's been supporting us very early on, creating utilities for people who purchase our NFTs, and then building the platform that will then eventually allow those experiences for our users.
Yeah, I definitely love what you guys got going on for sure. I got one of my friends. I told him about when you released the passes, and he bought a couple of them just off what little bit of information that was out there at the time. And as this has evolved, he's really getting bullish on the project and is looking forward to all this stuff. So I guess my question is, what are you looking forward to the most, or what gets you the most excited in the next year for the project?
Hmm. Okay, that's a big question. The thing that makes me really excited about it is, again, it's the launch of the alpha version of the app. I think for me that's the a good milestone moment, because when you have back then this was just an idea. Like when I was telling, I had like I think 20 ideas or something. I was telling this to Hello K, and I was telling him, would this be a cool idea for NFTs project, or would this be cool? I asked him like different things to get his feedback. This was like March, uh, when NFTs were just coming out, and back then it was just an idea. Like, what if you can store an NFT within a space? And then we somehow managed to just raise the capital in order to build a demo, and then from that demo you then build a team, and from that team you build some sort of the tech, the early versions of the tech, and now we're releasing our first NFTs to prove that the concept is real, and to prove that there's a community behind it, to prove that there's the partnerships that we work to produce have value. And yeah, I think that culmination to the release of the first alpha version of the app, I think that's going to be my most the thing that I'm looking forward to the most.
That's definitely going to be a big milestone. So, who are some of your strategic partners and how is this funded?
So at the moment, we just raised some private pre-seed rounds. So this is like before the actual seed round, and so it was just really more private friends, families, people who supported us, and then we did some past sales as well, which then helped some raise our some capital. So we were very, very frugal and very limited with the funds, but we were very strategic with what we're trying to invest in, because we could easily just go to an investor, they take X amount of equity, but then they can then direct the project, and then we lose track of our vision of building this
For
metaverse
sure.
space. So we had to hold back on a number of investors, but it's one of the two big ones that we have a couple of them that we've introduced. So the first one is Venkatesh, of course, from Epico Regal, and Wall Street Studio, Don, as you would say. I saw your video, man. So him, we've got Sanjay Bhaskaran. So he used to work for Amazon. He actually was the guy who helped introduce the Amazon credit cards. Made a lot of money for Bezos, and he's now sort of just as a as an external investor and advisor for us. We have Brock. Uh, I think people know Brock inside the VP community for his species project. He's been super helpful. He's actually one of the guys uh, who came up with the idea for morphing. So he helped our engineers develop this concept. And the other one is Taps Trades. So we recently brought him in as well, which we'll be releasing a Medium article about him very soon. So, and yeah, and then there's a couple of more, but we can't really tell who they are because of they're signed with NDAs, and they don't know if they're does it not compete with some of the projects. But there'll be a couple more. We'll be dropping bombs over the um, next few weeks and months of some cool partnerships, like strategically lining us up for the big moment. Like, you have your NFTs, and then you have your token launch. And from the token launch, there's going to be other NFTs that will be dropping through partnerships. And then you have the alpha launch of the app. So that's sort of like the mini roadmap of what we're looking to do.
So, when you talk about the token, can you tell me about when we could potentially be seeing the whitelist for that? And can you tell me how many total tokens will be involved?
Okay, so for the token, the aim at the moment is end of Q2 or early Q3, which is around June. So private sale, I would say, would be around. We're hoping at around June. So as you probably may know, I'm invited as a speaker, as a featured speaker at the NFT NYC event in New York. So we're looking to do like some private investment rounds around, well, richly after the Aradena drop until then. So it would be like private investment rounds. And then the pre-sale would be for the whitelisting. Um, you just need to have your diamond and gold pass. That's really your, it's almost like a guaranteed whitelisting from there. but there might be limitations for certain countries because of this KYC functionality. So we're still working towards that, of course. But yeah, so that's really the aspect of it. As for the token size, I don't think we can reveal it just yet because we're still
Okay.
sort of debating on it. But it should be like it should be a fairly good amount that will help us build this metaverse over the next few years. But it's all about the utility. Like you can have like thousands and millions of tokens, but it's all about the utility at the end of the day. Else you can have millions of tokens with no use case, and and it just it goes up, down, left, right.
Yeah, well, definitely getting to know you throughout this, it kind of makes me wonder what is the team like? Are they friends, or how did they all get on board with Kaloscope?
So for the team wise, I mean the longest friends I've had was Hello K and my business partner Ryan. So Ryan works as somebody who's our corporate support, so he supports me with the day-to-day stuff. We have Hello K, who's our chief product officer, so he deals with like the product production of technology and like the assets that we produce. And then so through that, really, um, the rest of the team, such as like Dozer, Hera, Athena, organically came in because we I chose them in a way because they have like a very unique skill set that balances the team. So every single person on the team sort of um, sort of has they have their each of them have their own unique abilities and unique traits, and then they cover each other's weaknesses. So when I was choosing and building a team, it's all about that management of who's who, because the problem with having with friends is you kind of then have this borderline business versus friendship. But we understand that at the end of the day, it's all about trying to get this vision to work. And each person, I mean, good example is like me and Dozer. We became good friends, but we weren't really friends before then. But he wrote the comic book for Aradena, and uh, the first comic book cover of Aradena is the portal that you can see on my screen. So from his idea, we can then produce this beautiful NFTs, and then with Hera, she produced these amazing trailers that we can use for our marketing, and with Athena, like helped us put this all together to manage the project and execute us to where we are today. So and we have also our very talented uh, uh, smart contract engineer, John, our director of engineering. So he works for Amazon. He's one of these top level devs over there, and he produced all the smart contracts. So all our smart contracts are like custom made and built for Kaloscope. So these are not just like a slap copy paste from another project. These are like properly custom made, designed for our NFT holders, so that we'll then introduce for future utilities as well. So yeah, all of it is balanced, and each and every one of them are uh, like very experts on their own field with their own background. They're not all full time, but then they give a portion of their time towards the building of this project. But there'll be more over time. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm super excited for the team. I listen to Hello K in the Twitter Spaces all the time. Like that dude is in everything as well. He is always talking. He's always getting involved. It's funny. I'll listen to him and he's talking about how he's at work. Hold on, I gotta go get some lunch and I'll be back. So like he's just definitely grinding on multiple things. Dozer, he's just got great energy. Always just throwing stuff out. Loves to hear feedback, and he really feeds and thrives off of it. And then you got Taps Trades, with that dude's quality in his videos and everything that he's got going on is freaking phenomenal. So with those three right there is just the ones that I'm aware of, and that just really makes me bullish on Kaloscope and the team, and where it's going. So where would you see Kaloscope in 10 years from now?
I mean, for 10 years, it depends really on. it really depends on, I would say, the technology, because right now we do have the tech, but it's the user adoption of that technology. I would say within the next 5 years, people will then start utilizing the metaverse a lot more. Similarly to how people start going into the internet as they got into it in the year 2000s. So like where we are right now is everybody comes up with their own NFT project. The same way in the year 2000s, people, or the early 90s, people started like buying and selling their own domain names to come up with a website, right? So that's really where we're at that stage. At some point, there will be a massive crash or a dip, but then it will then open the gates to the future of the internet. So being able to, like back then we still had the radio, and then people were talking about, hey, you can then now listen to the baseball game in the internet. But don't we have the radio already?
Yeah.
So then people don't understand the case. Same thing with videos. Like, why should I watch a video when I have a VHS? So, but as the technology moves forward, we'll be seeing a lot more uh, virtual augmented reality experiences that will then unlock um, new utilities for the user, a new way to a new way to really storytell. Yeah, so I would say within like that 5 year period, and then the 10 year period, it would really, again, it really depends on. I still just don't see people using a VR headset while they go to Starbucks, for example. It still doesn't feel right. Not just yet. Maybe augmented reality glasses. I think that
Right.
will be the biggest breakthrough. And then we don't, and then that would mean that it'll be the end of the mobile phone if that was the case. So that's what I think I hope to see. But we're developing that platform ready for that. So it- it'll take some time to build it, but yeah, I would say augmented reality would be first.
One of the things that just drives me absolutely nuts is people start talking about NFTs and how it's bad for the environment, and they don't understand or really grasp the simple fact that, take New York's Times Square and all the billboards and lighting that's in there and how much electricity is used in that. And you talk about NFTs and not augmented, or I guess augmented reality, when you just put on a pair of sunglasses kind of frame, and you're walking around New York and all those signs are not there, but as soon as you put the glasses on, all the NFTs that companies and stuff have bought are up on the billboards. And say there's a comic shop, they could take Batman and Spider-Man and place outside of their shop, and you could see it with the glasses on, and they could be holding a sign that if you come in and say, "Hey, I seen Batman out there, get 5% off or a free NFT," and then when you take it off, it all goes away. Well, which one of those scenarios is better for the environment, wearing those glasses or having all those billboards lit up?
I mean, for the environment aspect, there's already. I mean, we're in Polygon, for example. It's the greenest blockchain out there. They're going to be carbon neutral very, very soon. So again, it's just dependent on the story. The reason why that went out there was because people were they were just out there to chase a story. But as tech grows and as tech improves, it eventually becomes greener and greener. And over time, you realize that actually, wait a second, you actually, you know, you spend more. Well, driving a car is actually a lot more, a lot worse for the environment.
Right.
Using your electricity at home is worse for the environment. But it's again, it's just a story. But but again, like the human race is building towards a more greener society, and that's why one of these aspects for these NFTs that we're looking at, one day it could be these virtual trees could not only be connected to a real life tree, but carbon credits could be attached to it too, which will then allow large institutions to then trade those carbon credits for offsetting their carbon. But all this will take some time. But the more people get into this space, the more they realize the opportunities. And I mean, look at the brands that are in it now, and they just saw that curve. They jumped on it. They spent billions on it. Like companies raising millions just to build a metaverse. um, and but again, it goes back to you're gonna need to have one platform to bring it all together. Everybody's gonna have their own metaverse. Everyone's gonna have their own NFTs, from your passports to your home, to your to the deed to your house. Everything's gonna be NFT. But then again, where do you keep it? Where do you store it? How do you share it? And that's the platform we're trying to build.
And that's when Kaloscope comes in and dominates it all. So we're at the tail end of this, and I got a couple more questions for you. When did you become a gamer, and what was the game that you played that clicked that made you say, one day I'm going to build a business and a metaverse for games?
Um, just actually, one of the first businesses I actually built was a social media, and back then, this is where early days Facebook was at its peak. And but the issue I had with it was everybody that was on Facebook was also my family. So when I was posting stuff on my school or my university, it just felt awkward because every time I shared it, like I can see my aunties or my uncles just or my mom or my dad just looking through that feed. So I said, isn't there a better way to come up with a social media? And that's really back then I wanted to build it. And this was almost like 12 to 14 years ago. Um, fast forward to today, I'm trying to build, together with my team, we're trying to build something that's needed, not something that's wanted. It's like we are all collectors at heart or creators at heart, and we want to have a place to showcase what we collect and what we create. And we're doing it out of the need, uh, for to showcase, to share, to tell the story of what we have, and that's pretty much it. That's the main reason.
Nice. Yeah, I agree with you. That's kind of like with Twitter. I really haven't messed with it until here recently, and it's kind of nice because, just like you said, I don't have family and friends on there. It's all metaverse friends, if you will, NFT people, and it's kind of nice to just post a bunch of random crazy stuff and not have my mom and dad call me up and be like, "What in the world are you talking about?" So yeah, I'm looking forward to
Mhm.
that. So as you're building this, is there one collectible that you have in the physical world that you're like, this is going to be one of the first ones I put in my showroom? I'm going to scan it in just to see what it looks like.
Yeah, there's one, and that is a painting created by someone very special to me. And it was actually a remembrance of one of my good friends who introduced me to Bitcoin. So a friend of mine, when a couple years back into 2014, he introduced me to Bitcoin, but I never wanted to buy it. And a couple of months later, he invited me to become the best man at his wedding. And about 2 3 weeks later, he passed away through because of cystic fibrosis, which is a deterioration of the heart, of the lungs. So he's a very smart guy. He was studying in Cambridge University, and I was super destroyed at that time. And there was a very special person that produced that piece of painting for me, and she gave it to me as a way for me to remember him. Now, I took that painting, I traveled the world with it, and then sometime last year when I went to Greece for a holiday, one of my friends told me, who was living with me at the time, Ryan, he saw that there was a flooding downstairs in our storage area. So this is where I kept a lot of my valuable stuff. And because of that flooding, I was super worried about my painting, so I then had to fly back to from Greece to London, and I went back down there, and that piece of painting was then floating on top of another piece of paper, so it wasn't destroyed, luckily. But then, I thought that moment that this thing could have been destroyed in any given moment, right? It could have been thrown away, it could have been burned, it could have been wet, and then now I just lost a piece of my memory of one of my good friends that's super important to me. So that's the first thing I would probably like put into that space. The this painting that represents, I guess, my friend, and the history behind that. It comes all along with that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that, and I'm sorry to hear that, but that's a really good point. Could we see like in Kaloscope a portal that has a you go to a portal that's basically a shop, and you could send them X amount of pictures of, say, something like that, of painting or something from a family or relative that's passed away that you want to kind of pass down for generations, where you can send that to them and they make it an NFT that you could buy it from them on Kaloscope.
Well, the way I kind of think of it is, a- when you take pictures online, oh, no, when you take pictures using your phone, you scroll down thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of photos, right? But then there's only a couple of them that you really feel valuable. So, and this is the reason why we wanted to introduce like maybe some Calo Studios or when you come up with your post, and this decentralized functionality wherein when you're posting something, you are the owner of that post. If you post something on Twitter, Twitter technically speaking owns that post that you did because you're using their platform. Same thing with Facebook or Instagram. So if somebody posts an image on Instagram, for people can just screenshot that, then go and repost it again. But for us, it's all about that idea that what if you can do this? What if you can NFT a valuable memory that then you can then place in your virtual space? Like it would be nice to have it because it's not about the collectible, it's about the that memory. Or it could be a recorded copy of that person speaking, and then you have like a memory that you can then place in that space. You can tap on it to activate maybe a recorded version of them in augmented reality. So there's a lot of scope for this nostalgic, sentimental valued NFTs. And this is the point of social. This is the reason why Facebook was valuable in the first place, because it became a place to share. But it starts with, for now, it'll be just your personal collection that you collect from other NFT projects. But then we're already looking into these type of things, like how do you bring sentimental NFTs to this space? And then I can then have a private room that people don't need to go and see, but I would like to go and visit because I could remember the good times
That
without having to have a house.
Yeah, that's exactly my mindset with Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff. Is I always would have loved for that stuff to be around 100 years ago, and I could see how crazy my grandpa was and how crazy my grandma was and what they were into. And I wish I could reflect back to see that, because technology, just hasn't been around. But how sweet would it be if you could do that? And that kind of ties into Kaloscope with what you're talking about, where if you had that one room where it's only family can enter into it, and then they can get those experiences. And we talk about Kaloscope 10 years from now, but let's think about it from 100 years from now, what I just said. How awesome would it be for your family later on to go back and kind of reflect on how crazy and what kind of person you were, where they see this stuff, they could be like, okay, well, he was into that stuff. That's kind of why I got this mindset on these things, where I don't have a clue now. So,
Oh, definitely, definitely.
all right. Well, go ahead. I guess we're gonna go ahead and close this out. If you want, tell people. I know you've been posting all kinds of stuff in Discord of up and coming events, and I definitely appreciate you joining on here and giving me your time, man. I have learned a lot. I think a lot of the viewers will too. If you want to go ahead and drop some stuff that you've got coming up and what to be excited for, go ahead, and then I'm gonna close it out with a few rapid fire questions for you.
Sure, sure. Okay. Well, just to wrap up, thank you everybody for watching this video. Just subscribe to Kidrola, and just follow us on Caloscope on Twitter, and on Facebook, Instagram, and all our socials. And come and join us on our Discord to do and join the Calo Squad community. As for updates, we got the NFT drop on the 30th of April, and then we are looking to then have a massive event with it in the Manila Cove Beach Club in the Philippines, where we're going to be, we are a sponsor of the event, and it'll be the largest or the first Southeast Asian metaverse and NFT event uh, here here in the country. So if anyone's around, come and visit as well. Um, so yeah, just load up some Matic. Just make sure that you also have a diamond or gold pass because you get early access to that drop, and then it can sell out quite quickly because there's only very limited amounts of NFTs. So make sure you grab one of those passes while it's cheap in the market. And yeah, if there's any questions, please let me know, and just follow us in all our socials. But thank you so much, Tigola.
Absolutely, man. I definitely appreciate it. Look forward to seeing what you've got coming in the future. I can see big things coming in the space for you guys. Now, let's get into a couple of little rapid fire questions and then we'll close it out. And I'm going to go
Yeah,
ahead and start off with beer or shots,
shots,
cats or dogs,
dogs.
fried chicken or adobo.
Ooh, adobo.
I actually had to look that up. So I was looking at famous dishes and stuff over there, and I'm like
Yeah.
adobo. I said, well, that sounds cool, and I looked at it, and I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna have to try that. So yeah,
Oh
I've
no, it's the best dish. It's an amazing dish.
yeah, it said it
It's
was
like chicken stew. It's
right.
like a
Yeah,
chicken stew.
I was like,
Yeah.
but man, fried chicken's my favorite because that's how we do over here. Marvel or
Mm,
DC,
Marvel.
Resident Evil or Final Fantasy.
Resident Evil.
All right. Well, that's perfect. Just figured I'd throw that in there. So just so y'all could kind of know
Mm,
the man a little bit more and what he's into. Be sure to join Kaloscope's Discord. I'll have it down in the description down below. And be sure to like, subscribe, and check it out. These guys got a lot coming out in the future. And until next time, we'll holler.